If my family had a motto, it would be, "What would your sister do?" My sister, Dr. Evelyn, the cardiologist with the corner office and the surgeon husband. At every family gathering, her successes are the main event, while my life as a librarian is treated as a quaint, slightly tragic hobby. I'm not the failure, exactly. I'm the before picture they use to make Evelyn's after look even more spectacular. Tonight, over dinner, my father is grilling me again. "Are you contributing enough to your 401k, Lily? Evelyn was maxing hers out at your age." My mother just sighs and says, "We just worry, dear. We want you to be secure. Like your sister." I just smile and nod, a familiar, hollow gesture. I don't mention the lottery ticket I bought on a whim last week, the one I checked yesterday in the stunned silence of my tiny apartment. They're lecturing me about saving a few thousand a year, completely unaware that the slip of paper in my wallet is now a bearer bond worth $94 million. They think they're evaluating my worth. They have no idea I'm about to evaluate theirs. And I have a feeling they're not going to like the results of their character audit. Of course. The irony of the lottery win is almost poetic. My entire life has been a relentless lecture on the virtues of a predictable, linear path to success. Evelyn's path. My family worships at the altar of measurable achievement, and I was always the one with the wrong kind of stats. The comparisons started so early they feel like a part of my DNA. I remember when I was 10, bringing home a report card with all A's and 1 B in science. I was so proud. My father looked at it, then at Evelyn's straight A report card, and all he said was, "The B, why the B, Lily? Your sister seems to understand that science is what matters." My A+ in creative writing was invisible. It wasn't on the approved list of what constituted success. That blueprint was used for the rest of our lives. When Evelyn got into medical school, my parents took out a second mortgage to help her, calling it the best investment we'll ever make. They threw her a party where my father gave a tearful speech about her dedication and brilliance. 2 years, Later, when I was accepted into a top-tier library science master's program with a scholarship, my mother's reaction was a sigh. "A librarian? Oh, honey. I guess that's fine. It's just so small. It's not the life we imagined for you." My smallness became my defining feature. My small apartment, my modest but reliable car, my quiet life filled with books and community outreach. Every choice was measured against Evelyn's grand, impressive scale. And Evelyn, for her part, played the role of the benevolent queen perfectly, offering me patronizing advice on budgeting and networking, as if the only thing separating me from her was a lack of effort. She never once defended me. She stood beside them, accepting the praise, a silent partner in my constant devaluation. They spent 30 years telling me my life was a rounding error in the grand equation of their family's success. They taught me my worth was a number, and that my number was always too low. So now, as I sit here looking at a piece of paper that contains a number so large it's meaningless, $94 million, I can't help but laugh. They spent my whole life auditing me. And now I finally have the power to conduct an audit of my own. I'm about to find out exactly what their love, their respect, and their precious family values are really worth when the numbers are off the table. It happened on a Tuesday. I was buying milk after work, and the lottery jackpot was flashing on the little screen by the register, a number so absurdly large it felt like a typo. I never play. It always felt like a tax on people who were bad at math. But I had 2 crumpled dollar bills in my pocket, and a strange, rebellious impulse took over. It felt like the smallest, most insignificant act of defiance against a lifetime of sensible, boring choices my parents had championed. I bought 1 ticket, shoved it in my purse, and forgot about it. I found it 3 days later, buried under a pile of receipts. I was about to throw it away, but something made me pause. I sat down at my small kitchen table, pulled up the lottery website on my laptop, and smoothed out the ticket. The first number matched. A little flutter of amusement. The second matched. My heart skipped a beat. The third, the fourth. By the 5th number, the world had gone silent. My own breathing sounded like a hurricane in my ears. I stared at the last number on my screen, then at the last number on my ticket. They were the same. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there. in the quiet of my little apartment, the one they called my starter home, and felt the tectonic plates of my universe shift. The sheer, hilarious, cosmic irony of it all washed over me. My family had spent 30 years meticulously building a hierarchy of worth based on prestigious, hard-won achievements. And in a single $2 act of random dumb luck, I had just demolished it. My first thought was to call them, to shove this unbelievable victory in their faces, to finally have a number so big they could never compare it to anything Evelyn had ever done. But I stopped. My hand hovered over my phone, and I had a sudden, chillingly clear realization. If I told them, the money would become the new sun in our family's solar system, and I would be forced back into an orbit around it. My success would become their success. My win would become the family fund, and I realized the real power of this ticket wasn't the money. It was the knowledge. It was the ability to finally truly see them for who they were. The test wasn't for me to prove my worth to them. The test was for them to prove their worth to me, and they had no idea school was in session. After a few weeks of quiet planning, of meeting with lawyers and wealth managers who spoke to me with a respect I had never known, it was time to set the stage for my little experiment. I waited for the next obligatory Sunday dinner, the perfect arena for my performance. After my mother had finished her usual monologue about Evelyn's latest medical conference in Switzerland, I took a deep breath and laid the bait. "I have some bad news," I said, making sure my voice trembled just a little. "The city is making massive budget cuts. They're closing 2 library branches. My position is being eliminated. I'm being laid off." The reaction was immediate and exactly as I'd suspected. There was no sympathy. There was only validation. "Well," my father said, setting his fork down with a grim finality. "It's a shame, but it's not a surprise. That's the problem with those public sector jobs. No real security. Your sister has never had to worry about a layoff for a single second." It was not an expression of concern for me, but a victory lap for his own lifelong philosophy. He was right all along. That's all that mattered. My mother sighed, her face a mask of social inconvenience. "Oh, Lily, what a mess. How will you afford your apartment? I suppose you'll have to move into the guest room here for a while. We'll have to clear out Evelyn's old trophies to make space." My unemployment wasn't a crisis to be solved. It was a logistical problem, an unsightly piece of furniture that had just been dumped in her perfect house. But the masterstroke of betrayal came from my sister. Evelyn reached across the table and put her hand on my arm, her face a perfect portrait of patronizing pity. "Oh, Lily, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice dripping with false empathy. "I know how much you loved your little book club." She paused, then gave my arm a squeeze. "But you know, this could be the best thing for you. A real opportunity to finally grow up. In fact, my husband and I were just saying we need a new nanny for the kids. The hours are long, and you'd have to live in, of course. But it would be a steady paycheck while you figure things out." And there it was. The test result, clear and irrefutable. In their moment of truth, my family didn't see a daughter or a sister in crisis. They saw a burden, a failure, and an opportunity to finally slot me into the role they always thought I deserved, the hired help. They didn't offer a hand up. They offered a leash. And I finally had all the proof I would ever need. The day after the humiliating dinner party, I let their generous offers hang in the air, unanswered. The silence from my end was a new experience for them, and they didn't like it. My mother called first, her voice tight with frustration. "Lily, your sister is waiting for an answer about the nanny position. It's incredibly rude to keep her waiting when she's trying to help you." I kept my voice calm and neutral. "I appreciate the thought, Mom, but I won't be needing to move home, and I won't be taking the job with Evelyn. I have it handled." The outrage was immediate. "Handled? How could you have it handled? You're being proud and foolish. We are your family, and we are trying to save you from yourself." The breaking point came the next afternoon. I came home from a meeting with my new financial advisor, a meeting about managing a fortune so vast it felt like a dream, to find the door to my apartment unlocked. Inside, my mother and Evelyn were armed with cardboard boxes and black trash. Bags. My neat, quiet life was in a state of chaos. My closet was open, clothes piled on the bed. My bookshelves were being emptied. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "We were worried sick," my mother said, not a hint of shame in her voice. "You're clearly having some kind of breakdown, refusing our help. We decided to be proactive and help you pack. You can't afford this place anymore, Lily. It's time to face reality." Evelyn held up a stack of my old beloved novels. "You should sell these. They're just collecting dust." She then picked up a small framed photo of me with some of my library colleagues. "Who are these people?" she asked with a dismissive wave, setting it face down on a box marked "Donate." They weren't packing my things, they were erasing my life. They were erasing me, right in front of my eyes, deeming every piece of my identity worthless. And in that moment, the last thread of deference I had for them simply vaporized. "Put my books down," I said. My voice was quiet, but it had a new, hard edge that made them both freeze. "Put my picture back." "We are just trying to help," my mother started. "No," I cut her off. "You are trespassing, and you are done. Get out of my home." I pointed to the door. "There will be one more family meeting. One. I will arrange it. I will set the time and the place. Until then, you will not call me, and you will not come near me again. Now, leave." The shock on their faces, the utter disbelief that the family doormat had just grown teeth of steel, was the last thing I saw before I closed and bolted the door behind them. I chose the location for our final meeting with surgical precision, a private room at Aurelia, the city's most obscenely expensive restaurant, a place my mother read about in society magazines with a tone of religious reverence. I was already there when they arrived, a bottle of their favorite champagne chilling on the table. They walked in, their faces a mixture of confusion and greedy anticipation. They thought my layoff had humbled me, that this was some kind of apology. "Lily, what is this?" my father asked, his eyes scanning the opulent room. "You lost your job. You cannot afford this." "Let's dispense with the fiction that you're concerned about my finances," I said, my voice cutting through their confusion. "I brought you here to give you a performance review, as a family." I let that sink in. "For 30 years, you have graded me on a curve against my sister. My passions were worthless because they didn't earn as much. My life was a failure because it didn't look like hers. You taught me that love is transactional and my value was zero. I decided to test that theory. I told you I was at my lowest point, jobless, broke, in need of support. I gave you one last chance to see me as a person, not a balance sheet." Looked each of them in the eye. "Dad, you saw a chance to say I told you so. Mom, you saw a logistical burden. And Evelyn, you saw an opportunity to hire a nanny." I leaned forward. "When I didn't accept your insulting offers, you invaded my home. You put your hands on my life and tried to throw it in the trash. You proved my value to you is less than nothing." A bitter smile touched my lips. "So, about my layoff. It was a lie. It was a test. And you failed with flying colors." I reached into my purse and pulled out a black metal credit card they had never seen before. I placed it on the table with a definitive click. "You don't need to worry about my 401k anymore. 3 weeks ago, I won the $94 million Powerball jackpot." The stunned, horrified silence that followed was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. I stood up. "Dinner is on me. It's the last thing you will ever get from me. Our family, this transaction is concluded. You are now officially bankrupt of a daughter." I walked out, leaving them sitting there in the monument to wealth they had always worshipped, finally forced to choke down the reality of what they had thrown away. A year has passed since that dinner at Aurelia. The lottery win is public knowledge now, something you can't keep secret forever. I never spoke to my family again. I imagine they are still in that big suburban house, trapped in a monument to a life they now view as second best. The ultimate irony is that they are now the ones being constantly compared to me. I'm told my mother can't go to her country club without someone asking about the library angel, the anonymous donor who just saved 3 city branches from closure. The success they worshipped became the ghost that haunts them. I didn't buy a mansion. I didn't buy a yacht. I stayed in my small, quiet neighborhood. But my old library, the one they called the home of my little job, now has a brand new, state-of-the-art children's wing, fully funded by a grant from my new foundation. Last week at the opening ceremony, I sat on the floor and read a story to a group of first graders. Their excited faces, their joy in this new beautiful space, that was the real jackpot. It was a return on investment that was real and deep, and something my family could never understand. I didn't change who I was. I just became more of her. I found my value not in a bank account, but in the freedom to live by my own principles. It turns out I was never the before picture. My life just had a different, quieter definition of after. For anyone out there who has spent their life being measured by someone else's yardstick, you are not a number. Your worth is not a comparison. If you've ever felt small, please share in the comments how you found a way to celebrate your own unique value. Your story is worth more than gold. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe for more stories about writing your own definition of success.